breaking news, breaking news. Hey, yo, we gonna ride out. We got my man Q here from Queens, came up under the best of him. Me and him was locked up out in Atwater, so I wanted to bring him on. So this gonna be like a prison story, and we're gonna also ask him about how Diddy surviving, in the joint, how Little Dirk surviving in the joint, you know what I mean? What Pooh Shiesty must have went through, because we was all out there in the West. But, let me get this intro first. All right, let's go. You know what it is. Unique Mecca Audio, man. I'm here, man. I'm going to bring my man Q up real quick so you could understand what time it is, man. Everybody, just give him a round of applause, first of all. All right. Tell him who you are, where you from, man.
Hey, yo, we gonna have beef, yo. You say I'm from Queens one more time, man. I am not from Queens. I'm from Brooklyn, yo. Brownsville, Brooklyn, yo.
All right, but let the people know that.
Brownsville, Brooklyn.
Let the people
This is
know.
exactly, hold on, listen. This is exactly why I let you know Brooklyn Q, because there's plenty Qs out there. But let's be clear. Brooklyn Q, Brownsville, Howard Avenue, Pacific Street. Let's go.
All right,
Queens, don't
you see
not
what I'm
Queens.
saying? Yo, this my little homie checking me now. But see, you got to be able to stand the checking. You know what I mean? But I'm gonna tell you why. Right, to my defense, the reason why I said Queens is because you don't move like the stereotypical Brooklyn. You understand what I'm saying? The stereotypical Brooklyn, for the face you just made, they got them down as grimy, can't trust them. You know what I mean? There's hard and you know what I mean? But you all of that on the inside, and as a man, you know what I mean, from your actions, but your demeanor is more laid back, refreshing and warm and welcoming. That's why you got along with everyone in the prison, even the ones I didn't get along with. If you could understand what I'm saying. You're
I
not a
could, I
typical
can, I
Brooklyn.
could definitely
Your
understand what you're
exterior
saying.
is Queens, my nigga. So you from Queens.
Fuck that, yo, bro. You listen. Let me tell you this. Let me say this
Well,
first and
say it then.
foremost.
Say
And let
it.
me say this. This is why, again, I am the motherfucking what you call part of my language. I am the epitome of a Brooklyn dude. 100%, especially Brownsville. Those who look like somebody that's from Brooklyn on the outside or the exterior is because they really trying to perpetrate that they're from Brooklyn. They want to look grimy. Like when you're from Brooklyn, you're gonna move accordingly. You're gonna move with that, with the air that you're from Brooklyn. And for real, for at the end of the day, you could put me in a room with anybody that looks grimy like they from Brooklyn, and if they not who they say they is, believe you me, they're really not gonna. They're gonna be from Queens. They're gonna be like Queens. They're gonna be real, real quiet. Wow.
All right. So he checked me on that. I'll take that route. Tell him how we met, because I want to show him this picture right here first, right? This is me out in California in what was this, Atwater, right?
USP Atwater, yeah,
Uh, and this is me and Q right here, right? And that's
yeah,
Face. That's Face
yeah.
from DC.
Face,
Face.
face from
Round of applause to
DC,
Face.
young boy.
You see how the
Face.
names come back? All right, round of applause to Face from
Yeah,
DC. All right,
yeah, my
gunshot.
young boy Face.
Hey yo, Face get 3 gunshot salutes.
Word. 100%.
You know what I mean? Hey
100%. Give
yo,
him his love.
we gonna dance all over the place,
Hold up,
because
hold
this
up,
is
hold
how
up,
we
hold up,
do.
hold up. Whoa,
Yeah,
whoa,
we
whoa,
want a
whoa,
Face
whoa, whoa,
story.
whoa.
Go ahead.
Hold up. Yeah, I'm gonna give you a face story before we go on because I'm gonna let this segue into how I met you. But let's talk about face.
Mm.
Face is what the security, what they used to call security there, SS,
SIS.
yeah,
SIS.
SIS. They used to call young face from the district. We're not even gonna say DC. We're gonna say the district.
Huh.
Atwater's greatest hits.
Tell him
Only
again.
because they had to go back on the cameras for years to see his work that he put in. He at one time literally stuck a knife, an aluminum knife, in somebody from North
North
Carolina
Carolina, yeah.
and pulled his guts out
Behind the wine.
behind the wine.
All
You
right.
remember that?
From out of your unit.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. Matter of fact,
Because hold up,
yeah.
shout out to Mink too, Big
No,
Mink from the
oh,
district. Yeah,
hold
shout
up.
out to Mink. And I'm
Big,
saying he got into it with
round of
Mink
applause
over
to
the
Minx,
wine.
man.
Yeah,
Big round of
yeah,
applause to Minx. This turned into our DC segment.
one
All
hundred
right.
percent, one hundred
But
percent. Give
relax,
Mink
y'all.
his love.
Relax. Yeah, Q.
Give his Mink his love. Word. But when I
Back
got
to
to
face.
Atwater, you know what I'm saying? Like when I first met you, like at the end of the day, you really is the big homie. And I don't say big homie in the sense of the word that a gang member, anything like that. You the big homie because you hold that presence. When you move around, people know exactly who you is. Like you're you're tied to the streets. You know what I'm saying? Like you said, these stories that's underground that people don't want to talk about or you never want to hear because it wasn't social media back then. You really are who you say you are. You really are big, unique. You really are Mecca audio. You know what I'm saying? Like you could go back to these stories of Club 2Gs and you could actually talk about the history of some of these so-called hood legends that people talk about. And this is why you was the actual big homie. You know what I'm saying? There's no place uh I can't go nowhere in the feds and no penitentiary that they're not gonna know who you is. And not be willing to give you your props for. You know what I'm saying? So I'm definitely gonna salute you for that 100%. You know what I'm
Mm,
saying?
mm, All right. Thank you, bro.
Wow.
Round of applause to that. Round of applause to that. All
100%, man.
right. All right. All right. Relax, y'all. Relax. All right. So you want to tell one of the face stories and then go into how we met so it don't seem like all flowers. I mean, how you want to do this? You want to give a fake story?
Nah, I'm saying we don't even gotta really tell a fake
No, I
story
just wanted to
though,
get. I
but
just want to give him his props. That's all.
yeah, we're gonna give him his props. I'm saying that's my little man, you know what I'm saying? And I wanna make sure that his story is preserved with me. So however, um you talk about you, like at the end of the day, like I'm not I have nothing but all love for you, regardless of what we went through, regardless of the times that you may think that there is situations where it's not all favorable to you. Because it's to me, I don't care. It's really all favorable. Um, I felt like a few, not even a few situations. I could tell you a few incidents that have you had your imprint on, like your fingerprints and everything on. However, like it was a time where I felt like we needed your guidance, being that we was younger, and when we came looking for you, you wasn't there. So, and at the end of the day, rightfully so, you was who you was. So there'll be times where you be making moves and doing what you need to do. So we couldn't expect you to be on the front line all the time. Like we was frontline niggas, and you was actually the big homie. 100%. So I'm gonna give you salute for that.
All right. See, and
Wow.
that's what I'm saying. That's what they don't understand. I spoke about that with the Meek Mills joint the other day. You know, Meek Mills come from Philly with a whole entourage, and then something had to happen at the club where they pat him down on the way in. The bouncer felt something he thought was a gun. He told him to get rid of it. He go allegedly put it in his car. Then they call the police. He come out the club. They pull him over, and you know they got Meek in handcuffs. Now Meek is the big homie because he's the breadwinner. You understand what I'm
100%.
saying? So there's no reason for Meek to be in handcuffs when there's so many soldiers, or as they call them, entourages with him.
Nah, you don't necessarily gotta be an entourage member, but you just gotta understand, like, when someone is the big homie, and again, in that sense, he is the breadwinner, he's the protector. You don't have to be a soldier. That can actually be your man, like to the point where like you don't want to see your man fall. And first and foremost, he's not supposed to be in a position where he's carrying or concealing a weapon or nothing like that. There is always supposed to be somebody that's willing to actually whip the hammer out and protect everybody, not just him, but protect everybody that's with inside their circle. So I mean, there's definitely no reason why he should be. And he's crazy. You know what I'm saying? At the end of the day, I would tell him his face, yo, bro, you stupid. Like if you out here trying to handle a weapon that trying to handle anything that's illegal that could get you put in jail. Wow.
You know, but You know, that's what I'm saying, right? And that's what they have to understand. And that's why I hope you understood that I had to, make choices. For me as the big homie, because like you said, y'all looking at me for guidance. And I know that if I winds up in the shoe, then everything outside the shoe is going to crumble. You understand what I'm saying? And a lot of times it was frivolous things that you already know, the homie we just spoke on. I even say the name Sam. You know, we even call him Crash Dummy Sam. You know what I
Yeah,
mean? Yeah. Sam go
yeah,
hard. Everybody know it, but he's a crash dummy. You know what I mean?
100%.
So I'm not gonna let Sean crash me into a wall. You understand what I'm saying?
Right.
When I'm telling them, remember, I'm in a unit with him. I'm his celly. You know what I mean? And like the last thing that got him off the yard was the joint where they said that he sold the joint to the white dude, and then the white dude told the people that he got it from him, and then they wanted us to
Right.
run him off and all this old crazy stuff. And Sam ain't going
Nah,
for it. So
I'm gonna
Sam
give
went out.
you.
Go ahead.
I'm gonna give you a story about Sam.
Uh,
Sam. I don't know if you know that was his second time doing the federal bid.
mm-mm.
You know what I'm saying? And he has some history behind him that even though it was heard, nobody could verify it. And eventually, that even though it was verified, was the reason why they went and got him off the yard. Like, and they went at him 100%, knives out, all that. Like, man, you seen so much violence in there. However, let me say this. In your situation of you being a big homie, it had nothing to do with whether you being a breadwinner or anything like that. You had a lot that was going on. You was one of the few people who had a kingpin charge, who had life in the feds and still was fighting. So you was looking for that crack that you needed to get out. And if you was in a shoe, wouldn't have been beneficial for you. You know what I'm saying? It had nothing to do with nothing else. So the respect level that you was still fighting for your life. Because people don't understand this. People think that when you get life, you're supposed to just lay down. I saw in a movie one time where Queen Latifah said, yo, um, people in jail are just dudes who are dead and don't know when to lay down. And that's not that. If you get them type of sentences that man you had life sentences and you think that you're just going to lay down and die in jail, then you stupid. Go ahead and lay down. Go ahead and lay you down and tuck yourself in. But because you kept fighting and because we had love for you the way that we had love for you, because you kept fighting, like you did the right thing. And even with all the big dogs, Akbar Prey, those who had life that keep fighting, I'm saying it's love there. Like, can't nobody say that we have any ill will towards them because they wasn't on the front line with any petty stupid ass situation. Nah, Akbar praying and was willing to always look out for the young dudes, always um finance um dreams in there, because at the end of the day there is dream survival. um so with you, because you kept fighting, because you was in there writing a book, because you didn't just accept whatever the government gave you. You didn't have to be on the front line. You was older, you was wiser, your wisdom, um, and your personality. Like, one thing I say about you all the time is that you're very necessary. Without you, I don't think that that situation would have actually been the way that it's been. So many people respect you from so many different cause. So many shot callers that come up to you, and even if it's a small situation over a table or where the New York car is sitting at inside the mess hall, they came to you first because you was somebody that they could come to you. Regardless if you delegated it to anybody else, then that's the situation. However, rightly deserved you was the big homie. I'm saying rightly deserved that we gave you respect. Rightly deserved you could have sat anywhere and rock with any car the island does because you from Jamaica. Um, whatever the case may be, you just could have been on your Harlem shit and just been solo, but you didn't. And because that, I don't care what nobody say about you. Even if it's a bunch of people inside the pens or federal have any ill will say about you, I fucks with you. And not to talk crazy, but yeah. Well,
Mm. All right. All right. So that's where we at, right? Just so that you could understand what I'm saying. Um, that was touching because I had to worry about, me getting out and me making sure y'all didn't crash out. You understand what I'm saying? So,
Yeah.
I had two jobs. I had to worry about me, then I had to worry about y'all. But what I learned from growing up in the penitentiary from Mo Gary Harris L from out of Baltimore, right? When I was getting ready to go at the police
Shout
for
out
the
to B
crack
more.
law, right? Big round of applause to
Mhm.
B-More.
Shout out to B more.
Applause to B-More. All right, relax, y'all. Relax. Let me tell you about Mo Gary. Let me tell you about Mo Gary.
Yeah.
All right, relax. So right now, I'm gonna tell you about Mo Gary. Right, I'm gonna get the screen by myself for Mo Gary real quick. Right, Mo Gary, we up in Lewisburg, right? And when I was getting ready to go with the police in Lewisburg, all the old timers, the young dudes that were scared, cause we definitely riding. Right, the young dudes that were scared, they kept running to Harris L, Mo Gary because they know that I looked up to him and that was my big homie, but he would never allow me to say that. You know what I mean? He's just my brother is what he say. But I'm young, I'm in my 20s, so I'm letting him know like, no, you're my big homie. And he ain't trying to hear none of that. But they knew that he could have stopped me from anything because he was my voice of reason to calm me down when I was ready to get out of control. So and I could get into it. I might tell it later on about how me and him met. But I want to get to this so we can get back to this interview. But you know, we sitting there and they ran to him to tell me not to jump on the police for the crack law riot that was going on to say that there's no way that we could win. And they had all of this. They were scared to death. You know what I mean? They were scared to death. But they went to him and he told them straight up in a day room with me standing there and without me standing there. He said, you know what Unique is willing to fight for is right. So if you have a young warrior willing to be a warrior because you are old sheep now and you laying down and you licking your nuts, that's on you. You entitled to do that. But you don't take the fight out of the lion. So if Unique feels that that fight is right and you know that fight is right, if you feel that fight is not right, and they said, no, but we can't win. They say, every fight you don't have to win. Sometimes you just have to stand up. And then here it is 30 years later. And so many people came home from that same, crack law riot that they talk about that, I was allegedly in Lewisburg that all of this went down for. And they said Mo Gary could have stopped me, but he didn't. You know what I mean? But he also sat me down and he told me straight up, yo, you ain't gonna win. And I'm like, I don't care, dog, I'm going. And he said, dog, you ain't gonna win. I said, man, I don't care, dog, I'm going. And I'm a young warrior. And he looked at me, he said, but remember, I told you ain't gonna win. And then sure enough, when it all happened, the rat bastards and flip-flop wearing and public trolls, they ran to the SISQ. They ran to the SIS and told them about that meeting that we had in the day room when they tried to get, Harris L. Mo Gary to stop me. And he didn't when he could have. So you know what those dirty mothers did? They wound up sending me to ADX, which I deserved to go. I take full responsibility. But they sent him to ADX with me for not stopping me. Yo, I had to look at this man for 5 years in ADX knowing he there because of me. That hurt. And every time I looked at him, he said, youngin, don't worry about me. We both did what was right. I'm comfortable with my choice. If you comfortable with your choice, I said, yeah. He said, well, we be two comfortable mothers. Let's just get through this program and get back to the regular joint. You know what I mean? And that's how my joint was, just so that you understand, so you don't think nothing of it, right? But
Yeah.
you see where I'm at though, Q? You know?
100%.
And
Yeah.
but
That means he
go
has
ahead.
influence. That's why. And I feel like, yo, if he had somebody, some type of influence over you that he couldn't stop you, then yeah, put him in ADX. They put the so-called what they consider to be influential people into ADX. And
Mm,
you an influential person, to be honest with you.
mm.
Wow.
Well, we ain't gonna do it on that. We ain't gonna go.
I'm
I
just
just
saying,
look
think
at it like
about it.
I'm
You
me,
don't
son.
listen, you don't think that you an influential person?
Now, tell me how you figure that.
First,
Yeah.
first of all, even if a even if someone who don't know who your background is, your personality is of when you walk inside of a room, even a yard in a prison. We say penitentiary, we did penitentiary time. They're gonna know who you is. And let's talk about Boy George, uh, Prince. whoever the case may be. You know what I'm saying? Like these are, even if we're not in these spots with these people, when you come into these spots, they're gonna be like, yo, Unique is here. And because you influential, the ones who ain't gonna have no ego problems is gonna be on the front line for you. Just like I was on the front line for you. You know what I'm saying? I consider you my big brother. Like but to this day, can't nobody say nothing about you. I don't fuck what it is. Part of my language, but yeah. What it is.
Cheers, cheers, toast the crime, toast the crime, the crime, the crime, the crime.
What?
Fresh out the can of 26, he back on the strip, getting back in the mix. What he mentions a gift. You stand up 10 toes down, and I suggest you pay attention to this.
Real.
Take a little gully posse and put it in Harlem. He cut from the bottom, came up from the bottom. Drop the book, you should go and get it. An Instagram page and a YouTube you could go and visit. Then you could consider yourself LinkedIn. Sit front row and get Jews from a kingpin. How he went through it, so you ain't gotta go do it. To not pay attention would be stupid. Talking about a man that probably put your grandfather on. Probably the reason that him and your grams got along. A man that generated millions on the block, did his time, never squilling to the cops, Mecca audio. Get it live like 2 G's in the 90s. Drop top beamer so shiny. I let shorty go, she was whining. Treat her like my past, she behind me. Spin a couple bands on the Dapper Dan. You be back again, getting green like a Packers fan. No cap, it's a roaring uptown. They be horn uptown, Dominican bust downs. Now we on the positive, we got a lot to give. Now you trying to stop the kids from being inoperative. So take heed, homie, lend a ear. He started in uptown, he gon' finish dead. But now it ain't about selling drugs, buying cars. It's about buying property to make the community ours, so we can give back to the